going on, everybody? Welcome
Gentlemen,
back to the Great Reveal.
gentlemen, it's been a uneventful couple of weeks since we've last gathered, huh? Nothing's happened at
Oh
all.
yeah,
Nothing at
Yeah,
all.
the
Nothing
flame
at
was
all.
lit.
very.
Well, welcome
So,
back to the show. Today we're going to be watching a little bit about Nikola Tesla, and we're going to find out whether or not he copied some of his stuff from the ancient Egyptians. Let's get at it.
and why does that have to do with Trump?
And patents. And his grandfather.
Yeah. Well, I think we have the video,
Is there audio?
audio.
Yeah, let's see.
It's
We're live.
we're, we're coming back from a little vacation, so hold on.
Steve, is there audio?
I can't hear the video. It's a
Yeah, I'm not hearing it either.
Steve, hello?
someone wrote they can't hear it. No,
There's no audio.
it's a muted video.
Steve.
I see it. Hold on.
Uh,
Boy, that is really weird because my sound is on that video.
Make
Anyways.
live streams great again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Okay. So I'm not sure why there's no sound on that. Give me one
Al
second.
Jazeera.
What
that's
was
Do you
there
want to
before?
talk about what we're gonna be doing?
Excuse me.
Yeah, you guys can get at it.
So
I'm gonna-
basically, while Steve's doing this, so it's been a little while. We've been kind of in a crazy state of affairs in the last couple of weeks. We wanted to let things settle, and I think things have settled. I mean, House elections still haven't been fully called yet, but it seems like it happened. Trump victory, full landslide, and we are living in a very interesting historical moment. I mean, the tide has shifted.
Could the
The-
deep
the-
state be gone? You never know.
It's a real interesting time. I mean, with AI, the AI revolution happening, with Elon and X over there, with the podcast revolution happening. I mean, we've basically seen the complete dismemberment of the establishment media, right? So nothing like that is happening. Like it doesn't have any of the influence it did, and they're trying to figure out what to do and where's that money going. And Trump's kind of like the vehicle. Like everyone's getting on the bus, and behind the bus is being towed like all this other stuff that's happening in the same timeline. Like I said, like AI and the podcast revolution and like all this stuff, and we're witnessing and watching. And I don't know, I'm
Yeah.
cautiously optimistic. and-
I want to ask you a question, all you guys. Like, what was your biggest indicator when you watched the results? Like, what did you feel like at first? Did you feel like, oh, this wasn't going good? Or my impersonation was basically when Florida was coming in and I saw it go in so quick for Trump, I'm like, I think he has it. What do you guys think? Just based on
Pennsylvania
results.
was definitely the one that, people
Yeah.
were waiting on the most. Pennsylvania seemed to be like the, linchpin of this election. But like I've been saying, just like Don has, that I've been cautiously optimistic. I've been warning my friends and family against being, doomers and, blackpilled. Because I thought that it would go more like 2016 than 2020. So I was pretty confident, and I'm happy with the results.
Me too. I think Night's Big Old Red Wave is wonderful.
So this thing
That
we
was
want to
a-
talk about Teslas. In our
Yeah.
first episode, we had kind of even kind of touched upon the Trump Tesla connection, which I think is really interesting because Trump has there's a history. The Von Trumps.
Mm.
It is a German heritage. He's German Scottish, right? He has a lineage, and his uncle John Trump was the longest tenured professor in MIT. And he was the guy the FBI hired to go through Nikola Tesla's patents. Nikola Tesla died in 1945, right at the beginning of World War II, and the United States entering World War II. So Trump's seemingly have had access to this. I mean, if your uncle's that guy, there's no way that it just doesn't disseminate to you. Like there's no
there's
no
a
way-
relation. There has to be.
Right. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I think that's what's most interesting. And especially when you think about the book, like The Last President with Baron von Trump and all that.
Ingersoll
stuff.
Lockwood and all those books.
Project Looking Glass, but using high energy electromagnetic, energy with inserting atmosphere in it to be able to like see the future. Kind of like Doctor Strange, right? In the Avengers. It's interesting how comic books kind of bring it's science fiction in a way. It's kind of like, and I felt like that about 2020. Honestly, we kind of had to lose to win. You know, if Trump
Yeah.
won in 2020, things
They would have
wouldn't
stopped
been...
him from doing everything.
Right. I mean, and also,
Right.
if he had, let's just say they had actually found out, like, yes, absolutely, the election was stolen. But if they had like publicized that and made that public, the world would have gone on fire. The country would have gone on fire. People would have protested, said Trump's trying to steal it. Trump's trying to do this. It's his blah, 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 blah. Nobody would have, it would have been war. He almost like had to step back for 4 years regardless, even if they took it from him, even if everyone, the intelligence agencies, even if everyone knew they took it from him. That's
I agree.
That's how we learned to play their game, if you know what I'm saying. He learned to play the intel game and the dirty tricks game, which then he used in his favor and totally rocked the boat. And I think now it's, you know, that Undertaker music of him coming out in the last couple of rallies, that Undertaker music, it was just, it's happened. Hammer's going to be dropped. And it's interesting. So that's why I want to start this with Tesla, because I think there's a connection there.
I'm actually gonna go ahead. I'm just pulling up this video, right in YouTube, because unfortunately it looks like StreamYard. Well, StreamYard decided you can only have sound when you either upload the video,
What?
or when you run it through a website. It's kind of strange. I'm not sure why.
Whack.
But
We still don't know what we're doing.
Well, if you want, in the meantime, I can have some. I have a reaction video of the election. If you want to see,
I just told you I have it up right now.
Oh, okay, good.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, cool. So here we go. We're just
Well, we
gonna...
can watch that later.
Excellent. All right, so Tesla.
The theories of energy by Nikola Tesla have been revolutionary, to say the least.
We got sound now?
But for some mysterious reason, history does not dwell enough on his story.
The U.S. government sat on Tesla's entire estate for 10 years. Did they keep any of his papers?
I read that some people claim that Tesla saw the Great Pyramid as a power generator.
All the pyramids had an explosion, and maybe all at the same time.
Did you know that the word pyramid in Latin means fire in the middle?
I gotta pause it, and if you guys want me to pause it anytime.
I did not know pyramid meant fire in the middle.
Yes, I thought that was a very interesting thing on that. I'm really big into linguistics, and I think, Don, you are as well. I know that Damien is in it, but base words are super important.
The roots.
Super important. Root
And
words.
granite and limestone, and the fact that it was capped. You know, we also have to remember that the pyramids that we see today aren't the pyramids of old. Right?
The Romans
pyramids of
stole
old
the
were
caps. Yeah.
capped completely up, and probably likely gold on the top.
Which is a conductor. But I'll get back to the video. We'll talk more in depth about that later.
Granite.
Granite? Oh yeah. It was a big battery.
This was on Al Jazeera?
Yeah. Surprising.
Not actually. If you know your
One of the
history.
towers.
It's a great name. Amar Wakid. Waked.
Decoded, I guess is
So
the
this is
name of
an
this
Al
show.
Jazeera show. This is very interesting, but English.
I find it really interesting to find it from places you wouldn't usually have. You get those different
Before
perspectives.
Tesla, you could only send electricity 1 mile just for lighting. After Tesla, you could run factories 400, 500, 600 miles in all directions.
They get a story and they repeat it over and over. They have no proof of any of it. They never found a mummy in a pyramid.
Did Nikola Tesla find the secret to unlimited energy? And is there a plot to hide his findings?
Energy, the ultimate power. When I think about it, I find that most wars that have been waged in the past years have been about the control of what provides energy. And if I'm to talk about energy, then I must mention Nikola Tesla. I still remember my physics teacher at school saying that Tesla was an exceptional genius, whose work is behind many important inventions. The story of energy might be quite mysterious. Tesla was a scientist, but some people say that he was mystical. They claim he believed the Egyptian Great Pyramids were key to limitless energy, an energy that could be distributed to everyone in the world for free. He was a controversial personality even after his death. They say that after he died alone in his hotel room in New York, the FBI confiscated all his belongings, taking all his documents with them. And for many years, they say they were classified, and even until now, many people claim there are documents missing. Who was Nikola Tesla?
Those documents, Don, that was John Trump was looking through all that stuff, correct?
John George Trump. And interestingly enough, if those documents were classified, how would you get them unclassified?
You need another Trump.
Now you have
Executive
Trump
authority.
in the White House, and you have Elon Musk might be very interested in Tesla technology.
Interesting.
We'll see what happens.
Was he really a genius? What is the difference between him and the famous inventor Thomas Edison? I think the best person to answer this is Dr. Mark Safer, writer and university lecturer, who also authored the book Wizard, The Life and Times of Nikola Tesla.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for meeting me.
Thank you.
The first question I have is, who was Nikola Tesla?
Nikola Tesla was born in 1856 in Smiljan, Croatia. He studied at the University of Graz, which was like the MIT of Austria in those days. He was a mathematical genius, and he eventually moved to the United States to work for Tom Edison. Things didn't work out too well, and then he moved out on his own.
Can you tell me what was his greatest accomplishments?
And I don't think it's just one. I think there's at least three major inventions. The first is the induction motor. And what Tesla figured out was how to harness alternating current. Before Tesla, you could only send electricity 1 mile, power dropping off over distance, just for lighting. After Tesla, you could put one hydroelectric power system. He's the inventor of the hydroelectric power system. And you could run factories 400, 500, 600 miles in all directions. He also invented wireless communication. He invented what became the radio and cell phone technology, the ability to multiply frequencies and created an unlimited number of wireless channels. We talk about Hertz waves, but they're not really Hertz waves. They're Tesla waves. All of our computer systems run on the binary code, and he really is the forerunner to all that. So I think those are his three major inventions.
That's really big. In your opinion, what makes him different from other inventors like Edison, for example?
In general, Edison built better mousetraps. The light bulb existed before Edison perfected the light bulb. Motion picture cameras existed. He built the best one. Tesla himself distinguished from Edison because Tesla said, I discovered new principles.
So I hate to make the comparison, but Edison seems like he sounds more like a almost like a Tesla type. He comes in and he improves. Not a Tesla type, sorry.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, because he's running Tesla, but he's clearly Tesla would make the new stuff, but Edison would come in and take the stuff that was already there and go, well, it would be a little bit better if we did it this way.
Although, I mean, that's Tesla. Nikola Tesla was still using hermetic principles. I mean, he wasn't making.
He was on
although he said he was channeling some stuff in some ways. That's a whole other animal, but
whole another animal. But was he copying the Egyptians? Let's find out.
He was able to transmit voice by means of wireless communication. That was a new principle.
One of Tesla's most spectacular projects was the Warden Cliff Tower that was in New York. With it, he wanted to send wireless electricity across the globe.
What can you tell me about Tesla's towers?
It's a very sad story. In 1898, he was doing big experiments in downtown New York City, and it was scary. So he moved all the way out to Colorado to test his wireless inventions and met with J.P. Morgan, and Morgan gave him $150,000 to build a tower. Tesla read an article that Marconi was using his equipment, and he freaked out. So he doubled the size of the tower because he figured, I'm not going to just send impulses from New York to London. If I build a tower twice that height, I can send it all over the world, and Morgan will make even more money. So Morgan was in Europe at the time, and when Morgan returned, he found out that Tesla ran out of money, but he'd also doubled the size of the tower from 90 feet to 180 feet. So that was one of the reasons Morgan pulled the funding. But Morgan didn't just pull the funding, he blocked other investors. And the reason he blocked Tesla, I think, is because he was partly afraid that maybe Tesla was right. Maybe you could send electrical power without wires. And Morgan had rubber plantations, you have the rubber around the wires. He had copper mines, he had lumber yards. He wanted telephone poles, he wanted wires, he wanted to sell copper, he wanted to sell rubber.
After Tesla died, what happened to his inventions and documents and manuscripts?
The US government sat on...
That's kind of crazy that JP Morgan was mad about it because they still needed to make the wireless towers. And I mean, that sure needed rubber, copper, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Probably
Not as much though. I mean, dude,
Tesla
to wire the entire country, just drive. Every time you're driving,
Well,
just look.
Yes, definitely. But you have to think these towers. I wish JP Morgan had explained to him more. Tesla coils. It's miles and miles of just coiled.
Not even close
copper.
to what the country, dude. What you need to wire things. I mean,
Yeah, I guess you're
It's
right.
almost like William Randolph Hearst when he basically put the kibosh on, hemp and stuff because of the paper, his paper mills and stuff. It's basically like, oh, this is an up and coming thing, and this could, cut into my pocket. So I got to step in and nuke it.
So the thing is a lot of the times you have people coming out and they complain about capitalism, and that's not capitalism at that point. At that point, that's monopolistic
crony
corporatism.
capitalism.
It's corporatism.
I mean, it is capitalism technically. It's
Crony.
just-
Well, yeah, it's not allowed to say fair
Stop.
though. It's crony
these people
corporate
were
ass.
We're
bleh.
not there for the best of humanity.
Right. Well, I guess you have to operate with integrity when you're a capitalist, right? At least to some degree.
Which makes you think.
Tesla's entire estate for 10 years. So from 1943 to about 1952, until they finally released it, and now his estate is in Belgrade. And the question that you're really asking is, did they keep any of his papers? I don't know if they did, and it wouldn't surprise me if indeed that has occurred.
I read that some people claim that Tesla saw the Great Pyramid as a power generator. And they say that he built his tower that generates power from nature using the same engineering principles as the ones used to build the Great Pyramid. Have you considered that this could be nonsense? This is a good question, of course. And I may just know someone who could answer it.
Why are there people who believe there is a strong connection between the Great Pyramids and great energy? The film producer and director, Carmen Bolter, made a 5-part documentary titled The Pyramid Code, which focuses on the pyramids and other ancient structures in Egypt. I watched this documentary series to search for new information.
Nikola Tesla.
The ultimate irony. He watched a documentary series to get new information. We watch his documentary to get new information.
Hey, that's how
sought
it
to
is.
provide the world with free wireless electricity for everybody on Earth. He discovered that electricity occurred naturally throughout the Earth's atmosphere and ground.
This energy was not the kind of energy that we have that pollutes. It was a completely passive energy that had no byproducts.
If the pyramid fields and the network of underground tunnels are still there, why don't they generate energy the way they used to?
What did Tesla see in the pyramids other than they are giant tombs? I'd like to ask Carmen this question.
Hi, Carmen. Carmen, can you explain to me why do you think the Great Pyramids of Giza in Egypt were not tombs?
It has nothing to do with that. And they keep repeating. They get a story and they repeat it over and over, and they get the students to repeat it to get their mark, to get out of college. And none of it, they have no proof of any of it. They never found a mummy in a pyramid.
Why do you think they were power generators?
Christopher Dunn has shown how the pyramids could have been used as energy plant. He's written several books, the Giza power plant. He's an engineer. And so his research isn't psychic and, esoteric in any way. It's mechanical. And he's done a very good job of showing how.
Imagine in 2,000 years they find some old nuclear towers and they're like, these were tombs for their kings.
Yeah. No, it was just a giant antenna.
Well,
What I
they
like
did
about with the
find-
pyramids,
there was a period in Egyptian history where they were buried. There are some pyramids, but it's in like one area of
But they're not the same size though. They're-
correct. It's in one area.
They're
and
so
it's
small.
small, correct. They're small little pyramid. Exactly right. They're small and there's hieroglyphs everywhere. It's
They're
not,
more like a sarcophagus.
yeah,
Size.
like a little mausoleum. But like another thing with the pyramids and the energy stuff is too, like, there's four different parts in the world where there's major pyramids, and they're all fall on ley lines. So that's definitely something that's got to come up.
It is
Well,
interesting. They put that get into popular culture though. Like mummies are in pyramids, just kind of.
And they never found one in one.
Well, I mean, a lot of them are booby trapped and stuff too. They're like little mazes and stuff. So I don't even think they fully explored them. I think they started using little robots for it though. At least in the one in Giza.
They had to send. They were sending robots up the little shafts and stuff to find out kind of what goes where. But it's really interesting stuff, man. Let's get back to the video.
Energy could have been collected, and that's what part of the weird chemical marks that you see. All the pyramids had an explosion, and maybe all at the same time. And huge cracks are in these stones that are like 300 tons. So how do you crack through the entire stone without this force? And in the Great Pyramid, in the King's Chamber, there's like a crack in the wall, and the side of the sarcophagus is blown right off. And that's like 4 inches thick of pure granite, which is very hard. So if we went in there with sledgehammers and 100 people, we couldn't break it that way.
It's funny that you say that, because did you know that the word pyramid in Latin means fire in the middle?
Aha!
Did Tesla
face
use
so
ancient
creepy.
Egyptian theories in his work? Is there a similarity between Tesla's towers of wireless energy and the pyramids? Danny Kerr has done a lot of research on the pyramids and energy. He may have some answers.
Hi, Danny. How do you think the pyramids generated energy?
I went to look at the inside of the Great Pyramid and try and figure out how it worked. And what I realized was there was a gentleman named John Cadman. He's a hydrologist, and he had shown that the Great Pyramid could then be like a pulse generator. He showed how it created water hammer and could pump water. When I first saw his theory, I realized right away that the granite plugs that are in the start of the ascending passages, that those would move. The pyramids...
Let's take a look at this a little bit more, guys. Because supposedly there's some underwater rivers that run under it.
Right.
And if they're using the water to create pressure, you could essentially, depending on the layering with quartz and get the vibrations right, you could create power.
That would also come in handy if they got nukes under there, like was mentioned, because you need water to cool them.
It is possible that this was really just a nuclear power plant of sort.
Seems like it, right?
I mean, the passages don't make sense to a tomb.
Well, that's obvious. I mean, we're kind of like, that's, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely overkill for a tomb.
And then there's also, like, if you look up, if you look at the top here, my finger's on it, like at the top, you have like this chamber that apparently there's no access to it at all.
In the Emerald Tablets, Hermes Trismegistus, Thoth, the Atlantean, describes it as a incarnation machine. a reincarnation machine, a
Hmm.
marker basically on this plane that's here, and it is an energy flower, or it was.
Yeah, it's definitely energy related. The ley lines give it away, being the fact that they're all placed on it. Now the big thing is did Tesla tap into some of this technology or at least borrow similarly? Because again, everything's on the ley lines.
Mhm.
He was tapped into the other side kind of in a similar way to Aleister Crowley. Have you guys heard about any of the stuff that Tesla was kind of pulling the information from the ether?
Hmm.
Don, have you heard about that at all?
Yeah, I mean that's what he was trying to describe as like the fifth element, right? Ether. That was kind of a very early on in physics. It was kind of dismissed, which is unfortunate. It was kind of that dark matter, right? The ether. It's what is all the wiggly stuff going through. It's not a
Mhm.
vacuum. It's the ether, and that is an element. It's an important consideration in physics that they've kind of like dismissed.
Unfortunately, remember guys, trust the experts.
Hmm.
Let's get back.
Had perimeter walls around them, and I didn't know this before. And it's accepted by Egyptologists, and they say it was to keep thieves out. And what he was saying was it was to keep water in. That was really interesting. And so the water level of the pyramid would be above the ascending passage girdle stones. And so the water would have built up above them. The second you start a pulse inside, it pushes water up. And from there, the pressure increase just did work on the king's chamber. Then once I just started to investigate how a motor would work that like this, with a pressure change inside, came across thermoacoustic engines.
Can you now please tell me similarities between Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower and the Giza pyramids?
Apparently Tesla said his Wardenclyffe Tower, he was using a longitudinal wave, or he was outputting a longitudinal electric wave. And technically it's not possible. No one's figured that out. In the pyramids, they're producing loud vibrations that mix to produce longitudinal waves. It's very similar. Also, the pyramids in Egypt and the Wardenclyffe Tower are both built on aquifers. With the Wardenclyffe Tower, the water was there to aid the grounding. He was transmitting through ground, and the water lowered the resistance in the ground and made it a conductor. The pyramids, that's also the case.
Wait a minute. So he was basically doing a similar thing. He has
And
the
if
tubes.
you go to the site, you can see the holes. I mean, there was a whole
Mhm.
documentary where they actually did like LiDAR and stuff, and can
Right.
see it at the site, and it's wild.
I mean, we know for a fact that there was a lot more water flowing under the pyramids at some point. Look at the.
Yeah.
We talked about this in another episode. The oh my gosh, what is it called? The head face thing over there.
Oh, the Sphinx.
The Sphinx. Yes, the
The
Sphinx.
Sphinx.
Yeah, the erosion.
The Sphinx is known to be much older than the pyramids, and based on the erosion, it's all water erosion. And
Yeah, Robert Schock.
exactly. But I mean, they had to have had a good amount of water flowing underneath at one point. So
It was an
he's doing-
aquifer, so even if it's not, it's way under the ground.
It's water, right? It's energy in a way, or useful form here. So they pretty much have the same kind of setup because they had those tubes right on the outside of the pyramid. Oh man, it's so crazy, because like Tesla worked on all this stuff and he was pulling this information from somewhere. He was. I mean, he was coming up with it, but like this stuff is just stuff he was working on was just so advanced. So
I had a really great book for it. I let somebody borrow it. I haven't gotten it back yet, but it's called The Nephilim and the Pyramids of the Apocalypse. And it goes into great
I need
detail
that.
about, if I got to find another copy, because it goes into basically, the construction of the pyramid and kind of a lot of this about how it's used for energy and this and that, and its relation with other, monuments and other ley lines and how they kind of connect. So really, really interesting stuff.
Another theory that I've heard, and me and Tyler were talking about this earlier, but is that these pyramids around the world are built on, I guess, portal areas, but you need to like bring the frequency to a certain frequency. I know that like UFOs and USOs and whatever UAPs, whatever they're talking, they're
Aerial
allowed.
phenomena.
Yeah, they're underwater mostly now too. So like we were talking about how is it possible that there's these areas. You know how like there's different parts of the world where the connection between this world and the world after we die is thinner. The veil is thinner. Is it possible that there's other wormholes in different places on the planet that at the right frequency can be accessed more easily? That's another.
I think, like we said earlier, Steve, there's a lot more energy beneath us in the oceans and the water that we actually don't even know.
Oh yeah,
and I think it's just hard for us to comprehend. It's just one of those things like the amount of things that can go. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
So if they were using the water underneath this tower and underneath the pyramid, it could be to do with the movement, the pressure. Moving
makes
water
it more of a conductor. It's just
right.
Water conducts.
Exactly.
And also it cools down whatever processes too. If you're using like metal or whatever, stuff heats up, so you need water to basically cool down energy sources like a heat sink.
That's true, but water itself is energy. It's constantly in motion. It's
right. Water's flowing itself. Yeah.
Correct. Let's get back to this then. See what they say.
Not only are they water powered, they are built above an aquifer, and they sat in pools, we think. Tesla's Nikola Tower was low frequency. So is the Great Pyramid. That's another similarity. Both have the capability to transmit worldwide.
It seems that there can be a similarity in principles between the energy tower built by Tesla and the Great Pyramids built by ancient Egyptians. Could this be a coincidence? And why has there been no one until today who tried using this technology? These are questions that require another journey to search for answers. Energy is simply power. That's why I see the most important structures today are not palaces or skyscrapers or cemeteries. I think structures like dams, oil rigs, and nuclear power plants are the most important, because these are the factories of energy, hence power. Yet when we look at the
absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Great Pyramids of Giza, are we supposed to think they were no more than giant tombs? If financing Tesla hadn't stopped, he could have succeeded in providing the world with clean energy at low cost. Does that mean Tesla could have changed the world?
Yeah, so that's pretty much all of it. I'm just gonna be the credits there at that
So
point.
something to go over about he mentioned longitudinal waves versus transverse waves, right? Transverse waves are like Wi-Fi, basic Wi-Fi stuff like that. Longitudinal waves go through solids, liquids, and gases, versus transverse waves like Wi-Fi just goes through solids and can travel on water. So basically that's why he was able to do what he was able to do, is because of that type of wave.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he always said, think of everything in frequencies and vibrations. Tyler,
you want to understand the secrets of the universe, you must understand frequency and vibration.
Exactly. Tyler sent me something over here. I'm gonna bring up on the screen. Let's see here.
I think I have it. Do you have? Or perfect.
I have it up right now. Yeah, it's Ancient Aliens, Tesla's interstellar communications.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I actually watched this episode on Ancient Aliens, I believe.
This is short. This is
quick little 5-minute.
Colorado Springs, July 1899. While testing a magnifying transmitter built to track storms, Nikola Tesla claims he received some sort of transmission from an unknown source.
One night he was tracking thunderstorms 600 miles away. But all of a sudden he heard these beeps, and it was 3 beats in sequence. And so it was mathematical, and it didn't make any sense to him. And the more he thought about it, he thought that they came from outer space, perhaps from the Martians.
Mars' orbit brings it close to the Earth periodically, about once every 1.8 years. And at one of those close encounters, he believed he was picking up signals from Mars.
Tesla reported this otherworldly communication and proclaimed his belief in extraterrestrials in February.
Sorry to pause it, but keep in mind, This is February of 1901. So there was not really many signals going on. So it's not like it was something from Earth bouncing off of
No.
anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just it was probably just him and like Marconi working on radio
Literally.
communication at the time. Come on, play.
Yeah, being
February
able
of
to pick up anything.
1901, in an article for Collier's Weekly titled Talking with the Planets.
Tesla became obsessed with trying to receive further radio communications from other planets. Based on these transmissions that Tesla was receiving, he developed the theory that this extraterrestrial presence had been on Earth for a millennium, that these extraterrestrials had been controlling mankind from the very beginning.
So he came to the same exact conclusion as pretty much everyone who starts looking into it. You start looking at Emerald tablets, you start looking at the Apocrypha and the reasons they took it out of the Bible.
One thing I'm curious about is what if he was actually communicating not from outer space but within underneath us, like we talked about earlier?
Yeah. So I've come to the conclusion. I don't. At least this is my theory. We don't really see them going in and out of Earth's atmosphere. We don't see them leaving Earth. I mean, the farthest I think we see them is like on the moon. Don, you still here? Or you do? Oh, I thought you froze.
Yeah, if they're here. They've probably been here before we became aware of anything anyway.
See, that's the thing. It's interdimensional inner Earth also. Inner Earth
It's a bunch of different things. Yeah.
And the thing is, if you're in the Earth, gravity is going to be different, which means your relation to time is going to be different.
Correct.
I personally like the Solarian hypothesis that we're not really dealing with aliens, because I mean, we see grays, we see reptilian aliens. That's the people have talked about that. We hear about, what else do we hear about? Bigfoot type creatures.
Right.
It could be one of those relations where we had just us as human beings went through different cycles of life, and it's just a time travel theory. Where maybe the aliens.
I disagree. I don't think it's a time travel theory. I think it's quite the opposite. I think that these are all Earthlings. I mean, if you think about it, it just, they're so much more advanced than us. More than likely, they either left the planet, colonized elsewhere, and then are coming back. But at least in our local jurisdiction of space,
well, there are certainly tiers of, I mean, angels and demons.
Oh yes, but there's not too many planets in the area that we've found.
Right, but even
that are spitting out life the same way.
I look at, like, you know, the concept of Nibiru and the Anunnaki as not a physical plane, but as a different plane,
dimension.
A dimension, right? Exactly. So it's, you have to kind of consider that these aliens may not be existing. Interstellar, right? The aliens are existing in a fifth dimension.
But here's the thing, Don. Even our world, our dimension, we're learning is not physical per se. I mean, at the smallest connection, atoms never touch. There's nothing really physical.
See that documentary? What the bleep do we know?
Yes, that's a good one from way back.
That's a good one. That's way back. Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
Watch parties here.
We should watch that once in a while. Let's
Are we
get
gonna
back
finish
here.
this one?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
How far did these communications go? Did it lead to the point where he was actually able to receive useful information that was helping him build his inventions? Many believe that this is what happened, and that Tesla had direct contact through the things he'd invented with extraterrestrial intelligence.
But the shocking revelation was shunned by Tesla's scientific peers and led many to deem him a mad scientist.
So you have Nikola Tesla electrifying.
Oh wait. So he was just straight up like in 1901, like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm talking to aliens. Like,
this was a part of why he was kind of demonized and like hard to get funding, is people thought he was literally out of his mind.
Well, he was in a way.
And we haven't had like
for the time.
So you got to think of this 1901. We haven't even had like the Roswell hysteria, right? We haven't hit with the aliens. Like, this is like, people are like, what are you talking about?
The Wright brothers hadn't even flown yet.
No.
So aliens wasn't even like in the vernacular.
It was complete sci-fi. It was Jules Verne. It
When
was
was Jules Verne? Was that
late 1800s?
Late 1800s, right?
Yeah. Time Machine, all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was right about the time period when they were really starting to get talking on it, and there was sightings of airships in the late 1800s in the Old West and such.
Yeah, 1895 was Time Machine by Jules Verne, which is really interesting time period there.
Oh yeah, I mean,
H.G. Wells.
completely insane. Let's get back to this then.
Defying the world, literally. Then, about the time that he had a falling out with J.P. Morgan.
We were just talking about this. It was Morgan. Morgan put the nail in the coffin. He didn't want to lose money. Morgan would have, his entire fortune would have gone.
Oh no, it would have been decimated.
He wasn't going to do it.
A very powerful man. He'd also had a legendary falling out with Edison, another legendary powerful man. Then it came out that he was trying to perhaps signal the planet Mars. And his enemies exploited this, I think, to try and discredit him.
In the early 1900s, it was rumored that Tesla was being considered to receive the Nobel Prize. But mysteriously, he never did.
Even today, scientists don't take him into account the way they should. Tesla talked about atoms working like solar systems, and that light could work as a wave and a particle. Einstein got a Nobel Prize for saying light worked like a particle. So why is he removed from the history of quantum physics when he really belongs at the heart of it?
Belgrade, Serbia, housing more than 160,000 documents. The Nikola Tesla Museum offers rare insight into some of Tesla's future plans, including what some believe to be drawings of spaceships. According to historians, Tesla began work on his flying machine in 1910, focusing on the use of field propulsion or anti-gravity. It is believed Tesla had discovered that high amounts of electricity could actually create lift in an object.
Throughout the 1920s and 30s, Tesla continually talked about anti-gravity ships that could derive power from his Wardenclyffe towers that were going to be broadcasting power. He claimed that these ships did not have wings or fuel. They were...
Okay, look at this here. You have the exact, we were talking earlier about breakaway society. You have the exact
That's crazy.
ship that they use. You see the round ships and you see the tubes. And this is, in my opinion, I think that's the breakaway society. They're flying around in those things all the time. They got the Tesla technology.
What's that movie that just came out? Godzilla vs. Kong a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
They actually had
Inner
the
Earth.
anti-grav tech, and they were able to go into the inner Earth, and that represented it visually really perfectly of how you'd be able to do that. You need that anti-gravity technology to be able to go through when the gravity would shift when you're going into the inner Earth.
Correct.
Which was very interesting.
Yeah, it's we're
So what is going on in
we're
Antarctica?
Antarctica. Let's see here.
Read some H.P. Lovecraft. He talked a lot about that.
Did he?
Yeah, and the caves and the mountains in Antarctica. Yep.
there's
H.P. Lovecraft
definitely-
and Philip K. Dick were absolutely prolific for their time.
Philip K. Dick is amazing. He's one of my favorite authors.
Yeah. We know you love Dick, Steve. Yeah.
I love Philip K. Dick. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. So, we got Biden in office at least another 3 months. So, one of my favorite Philip K. Dick quotes. Don, you're muted.
You said Dick.
I did say Dick.
Yeah, he said Peter.
But he said, reality is that which doesn't go away when you stop believing in it. And that's always been so profound to me. Let's
The
check
game's
the
being played, whether you believe it or not.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
Completely
electric.
But were Tesla's designs truly the first of their kind? Or is it possible, as ancient astronaut theorists suggest, that similar vehicles had already visited the planet in the remote past?
In the ancient Indian epics, the Vedas, we find references of vimanas, those flying chariots that were used by the gods in order to travel from point A to point B. Some of these vimanas were able to alter direction at the drop of a hat without any effort. So now reading this from a modern day perspective would suggest that some type of anti-gravity device was used. You could link this from the ancient to the modern world with the modern UFO phenomenon. And so the idea that Tesla might have worked on an anti-gravity device is very plausible to me.
Are the depictions of flying machines in ancient Hindu texts, like the Mahabharata, really proof that Tesla had received otherworldly knowledge in order to design anti-gravity spaceships? And if the so-called mad scientist actually did make contact with extraterrestrials, is it possible he continued to carry out their wishes in secret?
In secret, huh?
It's just
What do you
crazy,
got?
like we said, like how he had like idea of like what the space would be and like the theory of like what it can look like, and talking about Mars back then. You know, people wouldn't even come in the sight of mind thinking, "What are you talking about?" You know, so.
Well, you had John Carpenter, Mars. Oh my gosh, that was already out. When did that book come out? When did John Carpenter? No, was it John Carpenter of Mars? Was it? What the heck was it?
You a link. Nikola Tesla's patents. Okay, that happened right around that
John
time, though. That's when you had the Philadelphia experiment. After that, and the Germans were working on Die Glocken, the bell. They were working on a time travel tech. They were working on some crazy. That's why they weren't pursuing the nuclear bomb, because they were onto something.
Right. They were on a lot of things at once.
So
they were spread thin, bro.
Especially meth.
Yes.
But
no, that helped them for their their work ethic.
But
so
well,
they can get it all done.
But as we know, after a few years
Side-
of hard
yeah,
meth
side
use,
effects.
side effects. So they're publicly, historically, they talk about how let's see here. How oh my gosh, what is it?
Like
Einstein supposedly was saying to what's his name? Why am I drawing
Tesla?
a blank here? No, Einstein was supposedly talking to our president here at the time. Was it Roosevelt?
Franklin Roosevelt.
Roosevelt, yes.
Right.
He was telling him that the Nazis were close to having a nuclear bomb, and we needed to do the nuclear bomb.
First,
but
yeah.
I personally think that they were talking about
Something else.
this. Took a lot.
This
The
is
bell.
what they were talking about.
Philadelphia experiment.
Yeah, if this came out, the nuclear bomb would have done.
And there are you can go see where they were building it. You can see the compound and the cement structure where they were
In
housing
Poland.
this thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. And remember, there were eyewitness accounts towards the end of World War II when they were invading Berlin of U.S. troops seeing flying saucers.
Yes. Well,
this
Foo
is where it
Fighters
started.
too.
That's where the term Foo Fighters comes from, is the people in the air, the fighters, seeing weird things, UFOs, they call them Foo Fighters. So, yeah, that's where that band's name comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it all was going. That's what,
Yes, there it is. Yeah, that's right in Poland.
And
I
so-
think I actually been there when I was younger.
Hitler was obsessed with the occult. He was obsessed with ancient technology. And again, where did Tesla come from? Belgrade. And Belgrade, remember, that area, Serbia, that's the old Byzantine Empire, right? That's where Rome went. That's basically where Greece and Rome. And if it wasn't for the Byzantine Empire, we would have lost it all, right? Because the Islamic, revolution came through and basically was stopped there, it stopped in that area. And that would have been all that basically was the whole. I mean, during the Dark Ages, it was the Islamic Golden Age, which kind of held that alchemical knowledge, and the translations of that coming back was what sparked the Renaissance. And that same, again, it's frequency and vibration. That's all this is. These are ancient principles that have just been used and then industrialized.
Speaking of the Germans, isn't it interesting that they were also in North Africa?
Why would they do that?
Well, they were looking to be in Egypt. They were looking for the same stuff. I personally think that the same reason that the Germans were in North Africa is the same reason that we invaded Iraq twice. I think we were looking for ancient technology, almost like Stargate.
Yeah, think about what's happening in Israel, and under the Dome of the Rock, and under the where the site of King Solomon's temple.
Have you guys ever seen the UFO video from way back from the Dome of the Rock? It's a real video. This one was 100%.
Oh, now we're going into UFOs. Here we go.
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's kind of tantamount with the pyramids. But speaking of movies, though, the occult, one that I like is okay. So the movie,
your mic is cutting in and out real bad.
all right, how about now? Still bad?
Talk really slow.
Talk slow.
Okay, so one thing that I like about the movie Hellboy is Mike's bad.
They're good.
Hello?
It's a little 50-50.
Still kicking
like
out. I'm not sure.
Gargling water. No.
Don't worry about it too much.
We'll get it
like I
eventually.
We're just remember we took a long break here,
We took a little vacation from all craziness, and now we're back.
Sometimes you have to do that.
There was just so much news going on. It was like we're not the ones, so we're gonna wait, and then we're gonna talk about this kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, why is the great reveal?
Mention the occult in Hellboy. Oh, is there? Okay.
You remember this? This was the Dome of the Rock. This is
That's
like
what I was trying to
15
say, but I
years
can't get it to that.
We've seen them in Mississippi like this, but never mind.
That was way back. Way back.
Interesting.
According to scripture, the prophet Ezekiel.
Crazy. Don, I think your mic is muted.
Ezekiel's wheel, right? That's what
Ezekiel's wheel.
Yeah. Well, what do you boys think? I mean, Tyler, what do you think? Tesla's technology, Egyptian. What do you think the Great Pyramid was? What do you think Tesla was working on?
I think that it's one of those things that Nikola Tesla was really fascinated about because he was a undercover alien where he was kind of just understanding from his ancestors why he came into civilization. So he was trying to understand how his brothers and sisters would build a pyramid in such ginormous kind of relics in a sense. So I think he is a alien himself, Nikola Tesla. But that's a
either
deeper
that or a
dive.
reincarnation or a super autistic.
So sometimes people, sometimes
Mike,
sometimes people actually, when they come into realization of who they are, they want to find out where they came from. So he may have just felt like, most geniuses out there are not human in a sense; they're superhuman. So it could just be a connection related to like, oh, what's going on?
Steve, what do you think? What's your conclusion?
Yeah, it sounds crazy, but
it sounds so crazy, but it's probably.
Said it earlier. I personally think that that he was tapping into the same information that numerous people have been tapping into, just pulling it from the void. It's kind of like a universal type internet thing.
The muse.
Just kinda,
the Akashic records.
Yes, exactly. What about you? What do you think?
I mean, the Great Pyramid has certainly been around for a long time. Definitely more than 2,500 years. It was definitely used as something, either an energy device or an reincarnation device, or maybe both. That's kind of one and the same, right? But it has been a staple of our civilization. I do believe it was either part of the original civilization, the Atlantean civilization, whatever that was.
Mm-hmm.
And Tesla was tapping into that. Tesla was just a modern day Da Vinci or
Took a long time for Da Vinci to get his recognition.
Right. Or the 3 laws of Newton, Isaac Newton. That kind of stuff. These were all they were all pulling from the same hermetic information. I see a Tesla as a hermeticist. I really do. I see him pulling from that again, frequency and vibration. That's literally it. And remember the quote, Einstein, when asked what it's like to be the smartest man in the world, he says,
"Ask Tesla."
Ask Nikola Tesla.
Yep.
And that's who it was.
Okay.
That was the guy. Oh, much better.
Oh, okay. I don't know what happened. So one thing I want to say is, so going back real quick, I'll make this
Just
brief.
slow down because when you start talking fast, for
Okay.
some reason it starts clipping.
Okay, so back, back in the movie Hellboy, in the beginning, they were doing an occult ceremony basically to summon the demon, and that was at Valhalla Castle or something like that. So Hitler and those guys were, they were kind of obsessed with the occult. And also, going back to talking about Tesla being an alien, well, maybe Elon Musk is too, and he's a relative, and that's why he's channeling the Tesla name.
It's all ancestry. Yep.
These same people that reincarnate over and over again. I mean, you have
limited soul theory.
Krishna talks about how he's been reincarnating over and over and over again, and it's basically a Jesus figure. Possibly could be the same God is incarnated.
Yeah.
Why would it just be Jesus? Right?
It's archetypes.
Right. These, the Melchizedek, the order of Melchizedek, and maybe Musk is just another one of those people, those souls
that just keep
keeping things moving forward. If it wasn't, because remember, if it wasn't for Tesla, we would have been really screwed up. We would have had the DC power. Things would have been really. They would have gone the wrong direction.
We would have been
correct.
Yeah, Edison was kind of a dick too.
And if it wasn't for him, we would have been screwed. So it's honestly just and it's so interesting. And Musk, look at the same thing. What he did, buying Twitter changed the course of history. And what he's done with Tesla and SpaceX, it's just somebody coming in and being like, all right, I guess they need a little bit of help, right? A little bit of handicap.
I think they're gonna put him in charge of NASA now that he's on the inside. Hopefully.
There's way too much bloat in NASA, bro.
There's no way they could do that. It'd be too much complicated. There's no way. Conflict of interest.
It's a money laundering scheme.
Unless he hands it over. Well, no. I think NASA's a little more different. NASA's in Hebrew means, what does it mean in Hebrew? I forget. Deception? NASA?
I'd have to look that up.
But I know that they always say it's
Sounds
never a straight
very
answer.
anti-Semitic, Steve.
I speak another language.
We got a quick comment from someone from the audience. They wrote this: "What do you think of Nikola and Baron?"
Ah, yes, we love this theory. Well, as the commenter probably knows, there was a book written in the 1800s called The Last President, right? We all know this, and that's kind of the whole thing. So Trump may have gained access to time travel technology. Well, we'll get it. Project Looking Glass, right, Steve? Project Looking Glass, right?
Looking Glass,
where basically you use certain technology to create using electromagnetic energy and creating a crazy amount of energy, and you introduce atmosphere into it, and you can almost like mirrors see future paths. Think of Doctor Strange.
Potential
paths. Doctor Strange. Think Doctor Strange with the Time Stone, right? Think of the Avengers, right?
Dr. Donnie Darko.
Infinity War. At the end of it, he looks through. He's like, how many times did you see we won? He's like, one time. So you can see all the paths.
Right. Everything all at once.
So it's possible that they've seen so many paths. It's possible there's been time travel. It's possible they've seen paths. I mean, Trump has been on this path, and this has been his legacy and his like, this is what he is here to do. He has this access to this technology to make sure we don't screw up the timeline, right? What do you think, Steve?
It's a possibility. I mean,
it makes sense with Matt Groening, right, and The Simpsons being involved in Project Looking Glass and all that. I mean, it's there. The Philadelphia experiment. We just pulled it up with that Glock in the Philadelphia experiment. They were trying to make it, time travel, and it moved the ship to another part, and people were spliced into the steel of the ship.
The Trump code.
Ah, what is that?
That's actually a book. Yes, I'm gonna check that out. I'm definitely gonna read about it. So
the Trump code.
Yeah, I want to check it out too.
Jeez. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, really interesting. It's basically what we talk about all the time,
That's a good find, Tyler. I'm gonna see if I can get that book.
I'll send it to you guys, but it basically connects what we just mentioned about Baron Trump and the family legacy. So, just a little caveat I wanted to give it to you guys. So,
Interesting. Well, guys, I think that was a really productive show. It's good to be back. What are you guys thinking?
I like it.
Fantastic. Definitely, I want to talk more eventually about the other books too. Ingersoll Lockwood in the 1800s about Baron Trump, and
That's the one, the last president.
yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
Baron von Trump.
There
So
was
they-
two of them. So there was I read one of them, and kind of a rough read because it's from the 1800s, so the English is definitely different. But yeah, I definitely want to get more into those.
And I mean,
we can do that
Baron
next week,
Trump
guys.
Baron Trump is wild. I mean, 18 years old. He speaks all these languages.
Dude,
I mean,
he's a genius. He's like 7 feet tall. He's gonna be like he's gonna be like the emperor.
Be a president. Exactly right. And
I think
and
it was. Yeah, I think
Dude's got infinite
potential.
potential, and he's got a family
Yeah.
legacy behind him. It's
Yeah.
the dude is
The
set up
whole-
like you can't fail at that
the
point.
goal
No.
is to globalize. Now,
Globalize.
it's
Yeah.
going to happen because it needs to happen. It does. We want a global world. We do. That is the hope. You can't really do much more into space until you have a global community that's
Right,
safe.
you have to have unified. But
And
you
Trump
have to have
has spoken about. I don't know if you caught this. There was a time where I actually he was said about he wants to basically give up the nukes. Everybody give up the nukes. He said it. And that is the UN agenda for the 21st century, is to everyone give up the nukes in the United Nations. The problem is who controls the centralized power, right?
Nukes are unnecessary, in my opinion.
They are now because we have so many other
wants to
means.
destroy the world. But it's about the centralization of power. If the whole world was kind of run the way the United States is with the governors of the states, it's actually a great system.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And that's
100%.
kind of how we need to figure out how the UN needs to be run. And maybe, in a way, maybe there is something to, the way things have been done. It's the means to an end and for the greater good. Because I think at the end of the day, we do need a global unification at some point.
We are going to see the craziest, well, not that we haven't already seen them, but we're going to see some of the craziest times in our lifetimes.
Oh man, well, what are we in? Trump
no
season
problem,
3.
Edward.
This was Trump season 3, and the season finale of Trump season 2 was wild, and I can't wait to see what happens.
Edward, if you liked what you heard here today, make sure you hit subscribe, Edward. And
I
we'd love to see you
appreciate
back
it.
for next
Thanks
week.
for the question, because that was a
That
Great
was an awesome question.
Great
Yeah,
question.
we love talking about that.
all
All right, guys, I think we're going to close it
Next
up here.
Sunday. See you next Sunday.
Have a great night, everybody.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
night, guys. Ooh, bye.